What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the TNA review. We have a lot to talk about today with Against All Odds with this past week's episode of TNA Impact. So we're going to get straight into it. Again, guys, welcome back to the TNA review and to the Wrasslin for Life Network. And today, I'm going to try my best to keep this a little brief. We do have a lot to talk about with Jordynne Grace losing to Roxanne Perez at NXT Battleground. We also have to talk about Against All Odds and the Hardy Compound. And there's one particular match from this week's episode of TNA Impact that was from June 13th that I want to talk about, and that's with Tasha Steelz versus Danny Luna. So, like I said, I'm gonna try my best to keep this brief today, but let's get into it. NXT Battleground, where Jordynne Grace challenged Roxanne Perez to the NXT Women's Championship. And what I tell y'all, that was an excellent match by two strong women in both of their respective women's divisions. I'm telling you, that was a great match. Roxanne Perez makes a name for herself in WWE's NXT, and Jordynne Grace made a name for herself in TNA Impact and TNA Wrestling. And it's just great to see some type of partnership with WWE and TNA. But more into that match, y'all. Both women delivered. Both women delivered on both accounts. I'm so proud of those two women for going out and making history in WWE. We did have some interference, though, with Tatum Paxley. Tatum Paxley really has an eye for gold, and she took the TNA Knockouts World Championship and tried to run away with it until a returning Dana Brooke to WWE, or Ash by Elegance from TNA, came out, snatched the title away from Tatum Paxley, and then Jordynne Grace saw all what was happening, got outside the ring, grabbed her title, attacked Tatum, and attacked Ash by Elegance. This basically caused a distraction for Jordynne Grace to lose sight of the match, and she was beaten by Roxanne Perez. But again, I believe this was great because it set up two storylines. It set up a storyline with Ash by Elegance in TNA versus Jordynne Grace, because Ash has been ringside for almost all of the Knockouts title defenses. And then it set up for the open challenge that was going to happen at Against All Odds, because it could have been Roxanne, it could have been Tatum Paxley. But yeah, it set up two storylines, and I think this was perfect for WWE and TNA. So, like I said, there's a few things that I want to talk about from TNA Impact this past week. One of them is Tasha Steelz versus Danny Luna. Those two women showed up and showed out on TNA Impact. There's a reason why Tasha Steelz calls herself the greatest that beat the greatest, because guess what? She still delivers in that ring each and every time she is in an Impact ring. And Danny Luna is a newcomer to the TNA Knockouts roster, and she clearly is the future of TNA wrestling in the Knockouts division. Danny Luna has every bit of the it factor, and I can't wait until she kind of breaks out, becomes the singles competitor that we know she is, and then charges towards that TNA Knockouts World Championship. This match between Tasha Steelz and Danny Luna continues to prove why the Knockouts division is one of the best women's divisions in the world. This was a stellar match on a random episode of TNA Impact that really stood out to me. Kudos to Tasha Steelz, kudos to Danny Luna to delivering an awesome women's match on TNA Impact this past week. I feel like we can't talk about TNA Impact this past week without mentioning Mustafa Ali's sit-down interview with Tom Hannafin. You talk about a politician's moment right there. That was a politician's moment, with Mustafa Ali deflecting from every question that Tom Hannafin tried to throw out to him. This was hilarious, but it also just shows how politics work with his character and what he's doing, trusting Ali. This was perfect. Him deflecting from every type of question thrown out to him, from Tom Hannafin basically saying, "Are you running from Speedball Mike Bailey?" That right there was the straw that broke the camel's back from Mustafa Ali. He cut the interview. Campaign scene basically cut the interview. They had had enough. We had to move on. But this was a perfect segment of how politics works in the United States. Deflection after deflection after deflection. We can't talk about TNA Impact without mentioning the Hardy compound. There's mixed feelings about it. I've seen on social media. That's neither here or there for me. I enjoyed it. To me, it was like a low budget horror movie, and I'm a big fan of low budget horror movies. One of those low budget horror movies is Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, but this was like a low budget horror movie, and it hit on all cylinders for me. I really enjoyed it, and to just know that at the end this was all their imagination, this was all not real, was so cool to see. But one of my favorite parts of the whole Hardy compound was Alicia Edwards and Matt Hardy's wife. It turned into a little purge for a minute. If you know, and if you saw what happened, you know what you know. You saw what you saw. It was pretty cool. I'm just saying, I think the Hardy compound delivered. I'm not a part of this. This was bad. This was good. I really enjoyed the entirety of the Hardy compound. I think they delivered well. I think Matt Hardy delivered well. I think the whole segment delivered. There was even a werewolf turn. It was crazy, and I really enjoyed it. And I feel like a lot of the times fans miss the fun aspect of professional wrestling, and I feel like this was one of those fun aspects of professional wrestling that did really further the storyline between the system and Matt Hardy. Again, I'm a fan of it. I enjoyed it. And to me, that's really that matters, is that I enjoyed it because I am the viewer and I am watching, and I really enjoyed what TNA delivered with the Hardy compound. So we talked about a little bit of what happened at TNA Impact, or on TNA Impact, this past week. So let's get into Against All Odds. And on paper, this card might have not been the best card, but it did deliver when you watched it live. And I feel like every TNA pay-per-view or monthly special always delivers. I'm gonna run through the matches that were on the card. So we had Sami Callihan versus Jonathan Gresham on the pre-show. Also on the pre-show, we had Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards versus Allison Kay and Marty Bell of the Hex. They were defending the Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. Mike Santana and Steve Maclin teamed up to take on the Rascals, and that started the main card. We had PCO versus Rich Swann, Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers defending the TNA World Tag Team Championships against the Nemeth brothers. Joe Hendry with a steal versus Frankie Kazarian. We had Mustafa Ali defend the X Division title against Trent Seven. Josh Alexander and Eric Young teamed up to take on ABC. And we had the Jordan Grace TNA Knockouts World Title Open Challenge. And lastly, we had Moose versus Matt Hardy for the TNA World Championship in a broken rules match. So that was the final card to Against All Odds. And I feel like when the main show started, every match really delivered. I think the only downfall is I really wanted Joe Hendry to beat Frankie Kazarian. That did not happen. Frankie Kazarian did go over on Joe Hendry. But other than that, I really feel like this monthly special by TNA was really solid. I was looking forward to Mike Santana teaming up with Steve Maclin to take on the Rascals. I am so glad this match opened up the show because it delivered and set the tone and pace for the remainder of the special. I didn't think Mike Santana and Steve Maclin was going to work well as a tag team, but they worked so well as a tag team, like they have been teaming for some years. It was really cool to see. Steve Maclin and Mike Santana, they did pick up the victory, but yeah, I was really excited about this match. I really thought the system was going to lose one set of belts tonight. I didn't think it was going to be the TNA World Tag Team Championships. I did think it was going to be the TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships. And to my surprise, Masha and Alicia Edwards did retain the titles against the Hex. Really shocking because I thought they were going to drop the tag team titles. They did not. I am glad my girl Alicia is still holding gold in TNA. It's fun to see this. I love Alicia Edwards. And if when we get to the main event, Alicia Edwards was really heckling the fans, and it was fun to see. Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers, they also retained the TNA World Tag Team Championships. They had some help from Moose and also from Dirty Dango. So does that mean Dirty Dango is a part of the system? Because like the system is already strong, they're just going to be a bit stronger with Dirty Dango on their side. I'm glad Dirty Dango is back, but it was shocking for Dirty Dango to help Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards retain the TNA World Tag Team Championships. Mustafa Ali versus Trent Seven for the X Division Championship. Before the match started, we did get a behind the scenes clip of Mustafa Ali basically denouncing the X Division, denouncing the X Division title, just like a politician and just like his politician gimmick. I really like this. This match for me was probably match of the night. I kind of called it, said this match was going to be match of the night. They both delivered. Trent Seven and Mustafa Ali. Mustafa Ali retained. Not shocked there. I think Mustafa Ali got a few more title defenses before he loses that title. But y'all, this was an epic match between Trent Seven and Mustafa Ali. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. It's on the TNA Plus app. So we made it to the Jordan Grace Open Challenge match. This was great. It was answered by NXT superstar Tatum Paxley, and I feel like we all knew this was going to happen. We knew Tatum Paxley was going to answer that open challenge. Tatum Paxley walked through what they call the prohibited portal, not the forbidden door, but the prohibited portal, and she stood toe to toe with Jordan Grace of the TNA Knockouts division. And this was an excellent showing by Tatum Paxley. This was a great match. I really felt like this was a door opener or a coming out party for Tatum Paxley to step toe to toe with the TNA Knockouts World Champion. She did it well. Both parties did well in this match. I was super excited that we got a WWE superstar to come over to TNA to wrestle in a TNA ring in the Impact Zone. I think this was great. Can't wait to see what happens more with this as we head into NXT next Tuesday with the Battle Royal for the #1 contendership for the NXT championship. So we might get some involvement from TNA there. But yeah, Jordan Grace, Tatum Paxley, surprisingly a well-oiled match. I'm not going to talk about this match too much, but I did want to at least touch on it real quick. Eric Young, Josh Alexander versus ABC. This match was great. This match was phenomenal. This match was everything that tag team wrestling is in TNA. This match was shockingly won by ABC, but yeah, a fun match at against all odds. We are at the main event. Matt Hardy challenging for the TNA World Championship against Moose. And y'all, the system is still intact. The system ran down against all odds. Moose is still the TNA World Champion. This was a great match. Matt Hardy showed up and showed out. Moose showed up and showed out. This was fun. Guess who else showed up and showed out during this match? Alicia Edwards and Matt Hardy's wife. Didn't expect that. Everybody was out there at the ring. Everybody was getting their hits in and licks in. This was a fun match. Again, Moose and the system stand tall. This is what the system needs as they go into Slammiversary, where they potentially could lose some titles at Slammiversary. But y'all, this had some high spots, fast-paced action. Matt Hardy still has it. This was fun. I really enjoyed. We have got to the end of Against All Odds, but I want to mention one thing before we end it all here. Jeff Hardy is back in TNA wrestling. After Matt Hardy lost, the system came out, destroyed Matt Hardy. We had the Nemeth brothers come out. The system destroyed the Nemeth brothers. We had Joe Hendry tried to make the save, and Joe Hendry got destroyed by the system as well. But who came out at the very end of Against All Odds to save everyone? It was Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy is back. He saved his brother. We saw some twist of face. We saw a swanton bomb. Yes, Jeff Hardy is back in TNA wrestling. It is fun to see. If you are not watching TNA wrestling, you should be watching TNA wrestling each and every week, every Thursday. TNA Impact. You need to be tuning in to the monthly specials and the pay-per-views as well. TNA is delivering and firing on all cylinders right now. TNA is where you need to be. So that ends it for this week's episode of the TNA Impact review. We've covered this past week's episode of TNA Impact. We've covered Against All Odds. It was a fun week to be a TNA fan. I feel like it's a fun week every week being a TNA fan. But y'all, as we go into the future with this WWE and TNA crossover, we will have more and more and more to talk about. Right now, this is the best time to be a wrestling fan, not just for TNA, not just for WWE, but for all promotions, because wrestling is making a rise right now. It's making a resurgence. There's people tuning in that haven't tuned in for years. So yeah, this is the perfect time to be a wrestling fan, especially if you are watching TNA. Thank you for tuning in to the TNA Impact review. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you. If you are listening on Spotify, thank you as well. We will be back next week with another edition of the TNA Impact review. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.